It's not TV, it's HBO.
It's not TV, it's HBO.
Hope, positivity, and optimism.
Hope, positivity, and optimism.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Mwah.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I was sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just, anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
Woody hoo!
Woody hoo! Out here in the stream, as in the streaming era, I fight for my dreams. I get my heart into my living.
You encourage drinking or marijuana use on the show?
I don't need a fight, cause Evelyn's right. Or you could sponsor an emu. I'm Batman.
That's your tweetable moment, folks. That's your tweetable moment. If Mark Zuckerberg makes a metaverse, is that Web3? No, it's Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse.
He's like us. He's flawed.
Just a little segue.
That's some dope shit, dude. That's really, really nice.
Woody hoo!
Woody hoo! Yes. It is time. It is time for the most not famous host in the history of not famous business talk shows. And why would I be famous when Luke Lintz himself, this man is Adonis. He is the epitome of perfection. My wife says sometimes I kiss the ass of my guest. Tonight, today, this morning, tomorrow, whenever you're watching this, I'm going to take that to new heights or new lows. I don't know, whichever. But I'm excited that he's coming on because, we need authority here. We need authority. We need some experts to help us level set and to sort out the wheat from the chaff. What is real? What is not real? Who is real? Who is authentic? Who has clout? Who has authority? Who has influence? Who should we pay attention to? To me, damn it, pay attention to me. No, I'm just kidding. But welcome to the show. It is you picked the right stream, my friends. Do not cross any streams. Just focus on this stream right now. And if you like what you see, please subscribe, pour into me. bit.ly/subscribe to the show. Listen, my 10,000th subscriber on YouTube, I'm going to give them an entire episode. That's kind of a new idea that I just came up with. Actually, it's not such a new idea because I've been playing around on Mark Zuckerberg's new toy called Threads. And I decided that my 1,000th thread, it's like a tongue twister. Try and say that 3 times fast. My 1,000th thread, a thimble of thought leadership, was Marilyn Mead. And, I try and deliver on my promises. And I said, I will bring the 1,000th person onto the show. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Marilyn Mead.
Hey, Joseph. How's it going?
This is
Still
what's
not
called
famous, Joseph Jaffe.
Yeah, because I've got the famous Marilyn Mead, a Brutoco VP Marketing at Winmo. You got an opportunity to say whatever you want, to promote whatever you want, to ask me a question about whatever you want. And by the way, go and please follow her on Threads at Marilyn Mead.
Please do. I have, the intro of the show, you said who has clout, who has authority. I don't know that I have clout or authority. I'm also still not famous, but I feel like people should listen to me, and hopefully after this they will. What I do want to promote, because I know you have, your next guest is a big thought leader in helping brands get high key famous. And I think that's just the most brilliant tagline ever. And what my company does at Winmo is we track brands who are spending the most in social media. We don't yet have Threads, but we are tracking Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. So if anyone wants to hop over to winmo.com/social23, or just go to winmo.com to learn more about social spend and figure out which brands are leading in share of voice there, we can help you out.
I love it. Let's give you some applause. I'll tell you something very quickly that I actually think what the world needs more of is the ability for us to share and merchandise and talk about what we do and how we make money and create connections as well. There's a word that I hate more than anything. Actually, I hate many words, but one word I definitely don't like is the word shill. I don't like it when people say, oh, don't shill, you can't shill. I feel people should shill. People should be able to say, hey, listen, this is my job. This is my career. This is what I do for a living. This is what puts food on the table. I want you to know what I'm up to. All this content I'm creating for free, all these rooms I'm sitting in. I want you to know what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep doing these walk-on roles, and I'm going to keep on giving people an opportunity to shine. And you know what? If you end up hiring Luke, or Luke ends up hiring you, I'll just send you my not my Winmo account, but my Venmo account, and then,
your referral fee.
Hey, no, I'm kidding. Or just, buy me a coffee the next time I see you. Marilyn, if you want to hang out in the green room, we've got some M&Ms, and we've got some Moe. We've got everything that you need in the virtual meta talk show verse. And who knows, at the end, maybe we'll bring you back. And if you have a question for Luke or a question for me.
No green M&Ms. Those are my demands for the green room. But I there, assuming you've got those.
You drove a hard bargain, but we will not let you down. Marilyn, thanks for taking me up on the offer.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So a little bit of fun as well. Why can't we reinvent the talk show in the streaming era? It was rhetorical, because we can, we are, we should, and guess what? We just did. But now what I want to do is I want to get to the seated soliloquy. For those of you that are new to the show, I am seated. It's a monologue, hence the unbelievably creative name, Seated Soliloquy. And today, the seated soliloquy, which is always in keeping with the show, the seated soliloquy is always connected to my guest, and it's called authority. Now, we're not necessarily talking about listening to authority. I'm not the best rule follower, but when it comes to clout and people that chase clout and authority and influence and popularity, we need to be able to make sure that there is a red thread that cuts and runs through everything, and that is trust. And it's, if you need another thread, see what I just did there with threads? It's relationship. It's it's track record, it's experience, it's the ability to make sure that in our limited time and with our limited budgets, that we are working with the right people, that we are partnering with the right people, that we make sure that the cream should rise to the top. You see, so many people are creating content that nobody sees. I should know. I've been doing that for 500 episodes. But that doesn't mean you stop. It just means you figure out how to partner and collaborate with the right people. And guess what? If success begets success, well, then influence begets influence. And influences beget influences. And collaborations begets collaboration. And what we actually realize is that when we partner with the right people, when we fan out, when we create our primary and secondary and tertiary networks, that we give ourselves a fighting chance to be seen, a fighting chance to be heard, a fighting chance to be felt, feeling, real feeling, that we can resonate with people, that people can internalize us and not just pay it forward, but move it forward, share it forward, tell other people. Because at the end of the day, and you may have heard me say this in the past, what constitutes virality and the ability for something to be shared is not, it's not, would you want to watch this? It's, would you want somebody else to watch it? That's the key. Because half the time when we send things to other people, we're putting our own social capital, our own social currency, our own clout on the line. And there's an act, which is, hey, I wanted you to watch this. It doesn't actually even matter what it is. But what matters is that I wanted you to watch this. Maybe it's going to bring a smile to your face. Maybe it's going to make a difference. Maybe it's going to give you the kind of insight that helps you level up or 10x or do whatever it takes to survive and thrive. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a talk show host. I'll tell you who does know a thing or two about a thing or two is my guest, Luke Lintz. Luke Lintz is a 23-year-old Canadian-born entrepreneur. Let me just say that I hate this man with a passion. 23? Come on. Please tell me it's a typo. That has focused the last 7 years of his business. Come on. I can do math. And that tells me that he's been doing this for at least 28 years. I told you I can do math. Let me start again because I'm just, I'm destroying this beautiful bio. Luke Lintz is a 23-year-old Canadian-born entrepreneur that has focused the last 7 years of his business career on his company called High Key. Luke is now the CEO of the PR firm with over 70 full-time workers and focused on building the digital brands of 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs. He can definitely work with me, but there's a decimal point between in those 7 figures. Luke has over 1 million followers on Instagram. Those are Dr. Evil-like numbers, and has partnered up with celebrities like Kevin Hart, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg, and hundreds of other A-list celebrities. Now, I've not heard of any of those celebrities before, but I have heard of him. Luke, welcome to the show.
Joseph, thanks for having me on. It
only goes downhill from here, my friend.
I've watched the shows, I know.
Oh, you haven't? Wait, hold on. You've watched the show and you still chose to come on.
Yeah, I thought it would be a fun time.
Does that make you a masochist? I guess it does. Every entrepreneur is a masochist, aren't they? All right. So then, if you've watched the show, then you would know, as it's funny, you can't see this right now, but I can. There's a spider that's just decided to come all the way down in the middle of the screen and settle on my mouse pad. I'm not sure why, but if I do turn into a superhero, it was you. It was your influence. I'm just letting you know in case I get bitten. But Luke, you know that there is a little part in the show we call Fun Facts, where we send our private investigators into the field to discover deep, dark, and sordid facts about our guests. And they could find nothing on you. It's like you don't even exist. You're so clean. In fact, the only thing that they could find on you was that you started a YouTube channel for 8 months with your older brother before any business, and then gave up only having 120 subscribers. I am a gift giver. I make wishes come true. So I've turned Mr. Beast's page into your page. And these are all your incredible videos and your amazing work. So you get to be Mr. Beast for a day.
Hey, Mr. Beast is a living legend in the YouTube realm.
So tell us about the story. Tell us about how you gave up, because there is something in there. I mean, one thing I read even, when doing a little bit of research on you, is this concept of failure, right? It's only failure when you quit. But you quit and you're back on YouTube again, and you've kind of done a few other things. Tell us about the story, and then tell us about the lessons now. If you could go back all over again, would you do things the same way? Would you do things differently? Would you have done it at all?
Yeah, so I started a YouTube channel back in grade 10 with my older brother. and I was in high school at the time, obviously, and we were just really thinking about different things that we could do, side hustles. We wanted to just do something outside of just the mundane schoolwork every single day and potentially like make some money from it. And so the only thing that we knew at the time was the influencers that we were watching on social media. And so in particular, we were watching a lot of gaming influencers on YouTube. And we thought about, we're like, hey, we're a couple of funny guys. We play video games. We could easily do this. We just need the equipment. And so we got the equipment. We started up a YouTube channel and we ran it for the matter of 8 months. And we were doing it on a consistent basis. We were posting 2 to 3 times per week, a lot of content. Like we got out probably 100 videos in the matter of that time of just playing video games and recording ourselves doing it. And the only subscribers that we had at the time were the subscribers of our close friends. So we didn't get any subscribers outside of people at our high school that were following us. And so I called it quits on that because I knew that wasn't the road that was going to take me in the direction that I was going to go. But it gave me a lot of skill sets that were invaluable in terms of learning about the social media platforms, learning about video editing, learning about content creation, learning about being on camera. Like I remember back in those days, I was extremely cringy in terms of just being on camera and just couldn't speak properly. And so I think like I took a lot of valuable mindsets from that. And so if I could go back, I would do it the exact same way as I did, because there's no such thing as failure when I think about things, as long as you take learning lessons away from it.
I mean, we hear this all the time, and it almost sounds like a cliche. I say this all the time to people. I asked someone, I said, what if I don't make it? Like, when do I quit? When is the end? And they said to me, Joe, it's only the end when you say it's the end. It's only over when you say it's over. And if you don't say it's over, it's not over. It's never over. You change, you pivot, you duck, dive, dodge, and dodge. I mean, go back to dodgeball as well. So it's amazing how this informed you and it's shaped you as well in terms of getting comfortable on camera. What else can people do to get really comfortable in the limelight and in front of camera? And should everyone do that? I mean, does everyone, they tell me I have a face for radio. I don't know why. So what advice do you give to people that are trying to develop their persona, their voice, their face, their presence?
Yeah, it's funny because especially in this day and age, one of the most sought after jobs of people in high school when there's surveys done is to become an influencer, or in particular becoming a YouTuber. And
right.
It's just because they see that as like the dream job of being every component of things, making money on video, being famous, all of these things. And in reality, not every single person should be on camera. And it shouldn't be people's goals necessarily to get up to that level. And
this guy,
Joseph, you actually have a really good voice, and you speak extremely well in terms of. I could totally see a hit radio show, TV show being built off of like what.
Hold on, I'm glad you said TV, because you were leveling, you were like focusing on the voice part, and I was like, you need to talk about the sight and the sound and the motion, please. And the accent helps
for sure.
Being this as well, being different. You got to figure out, like people talk about differentiation. You got to have something that's different. You've got to have something that helps you stand out. Otherwise, just you like it. And isn't that the danger these days of social media? Is that everyone's just trying to fit in and blend in instead of standing out.
Yeah, there's tons of dangers of social media. Like people who use social media, I think it gets a majority of people in a comparison mindset. And so just constantly comparing themselves to other lives, like social media shows the perfection of people's lives just on a daily basis and shows their ideal lifestyle. And people don't post really about all of the bad stuff that's going on during their life and all of the failures of their life. And sure, people talk about them like business people and stuff, but it's not really shown in the content. And so I think that there's a lot of cons. I think the biggest con is in terms of like how it affects people's mindset in general of using it. I personally, it's kind of contrary to talk about, but I run an agency, like a PR firm that helps people level up their digital brands, and I use it as a tool. But personally, like, I hate social media. Like, I hate the aspect of social media. And I think if somebody's not using social media as a benefit, as a tool to grow in life and in business, then they shouldn't use social media in general to consume. But people are using social media every single day. And so I might capitalize on it.
But there's something honest about what you just said there, which is it's almost like this necessary evil. You know, don't hate the player, hate the game. I like that. I like that approach. It's fresh and refreshing to me, is to say, look, it's the same reason why I'm on Threads. It's because I would be cutting my nose off to spite my radio face if I was digging my heels in. Then I would be aging out. Then I would be saying, bah humbug, or get off my lawn. But when we treat it as the necessary evil, I feel like we have a much better chance of being able to navigate through the mindset. So I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah, 100%. You want to hear an interesting fact about Threads? Is that so when Threads was first released, it was released like last week or wherever. When it was first released, they allowed, when you first signed up, to follow every single account that you're following on Instagram. And so the sooner that you created an account on Threads, the more followers that you got from your Instagram page. And like, we tested this out because my personal account, I started on Threads right when it launched, within the hour. And then we didn't sign up on our company page, which has the exact same followers as our personal page, until a day later. And we didn't gain all of the followers from the first day. And so it was like a 10,000 follower discrepancy between the two accounts.
Wait, are we saying that Mark Zuckerberg cheated? There's breaking news here.
He just favored every single person who signed up for an account right away.
But I think, again, Luke, another thing that comes out of this is, when you say don't hate the player, hate the game, you got to know the rules of the game. You can't win at the game if you don't know the rules of the game. And part of the necessary evil is you've got to sometimes be able to, you got to show up, and you got to accept, even if the rules are flawed, we're all playing by them. And I think that's part of it. Wouldn't you say?
I think the rules of this entire world is flawed. And so you can go as micro as social media, but I think in a macro sense, I think there's a lot of things that are flawed in this world. And so I don't see me hating social media and then therefore using social media as a tool is a bad thing, because I think you could pick apart any single industry and go dive deep into that aspect of things.
Look, that's a very profound statement, which I tend to agree with. The rules of the whole world are flawed. What do you do in that case when you realize sometimes that the odds are stacked against you? That, I mean, you're in the business. You're in the business. You represent some of the most incredible celebrities on this planet. I have actually heard of a few of them, by the way. Surprise, surprise. But they're struggling with the same thing as well. They're trying to stand out. They're not just that. Sure, they've got the followers, but they want to be invited to the right parties. They want to get the right brand endorsement deals. They want to walk the red carpet. They also need to use the same principles that I might or Marilyn might.
100%. I think it's a balance of things. In terms of like what we do on a day-to-day basis, like we're managing people's social media accounts and growing their following, managing their social media accounts to manage what content they're putting out. On the PR side of things, we're leveling up people's digital presence on Google by publishing press. And then when we collaborate with celebrities, we're seeing this all the time in terms of how it's like the balance of them trying to, and our clients too, of trying to go with the trends and go with what everybody else is doing, but also find their own creative element and what makes them unique in every aspect of things that they're doing. And it's interesting when you see certain celebrities going really against the grain and being extremely controversial and then being quote unquote canceled, and how cancel culture started up with that.
I mean, we could talk about that for hours, and let's talk about that a little bit, because how does a celebrity, for example, that has built their brand, that has built their platform on pushing, on being a little controversial, on being everywhere from irreverent to provocative, how do they find their balance? How do they find their voice in a world that is hyper aware and hypersensitive?
Yeah, I'm a big believer, like every single client that we work with and myself with my own social media content, where it's easy to get lost in terms of not putting out content because you just don't know what to post and don't know what to put out there, because it can be a complicated game. Like, which social media platform should I use? What type of content should I be posting? What type of content should I be creating? Oh, my videos aren't performing, I'm just going to stop this. Like, there's so many different factors in terms of what make people want to post and not post. And so what I always say is starting off with just what you're an expert in, and only speaking solely about what you're an expert in your specific industry, in your specific niche, focusing on that, building a tight following, working on the social media platforms first that are correlated with what you're talking about. For example, like business type topics go on certain social media platforms, where like entertainment type topics and videos would be better performing on other social media channels, and then growing from there.
I'm hearing some really good advice here. Number one is be authentic, right? Be yourself. Like, if you don't know who you are, then if you try and be all things to all people, you end up being nothing to nobody. The other one is this idea of, and it's an interesting piece of advice, which is stay in your lane. Which is, I mean, you got to where you got to for a reason. So don't be distracted and diluted by all the bright and shiny objects.
Yeah, and a massive thing about social media and content in general that people don't take into account, Joseph, is that people think that social media is just this overnight thing of, putting up posts and just expecting followers overnight, where social media is a business in and of itself. And so you don't ever start up a business and expect to succeed in business the next day. You don't ever expect to have overnight success with your business. When you go into business, if you're of a realistic mindset, you're trying to be in business and trying to master the skill set that you're in the industry that you're in for the next 5 to 10 year horizon. So if people took that exact same mindset into social media, they would actually become very successful.
I have a saying that I often use, which is the seeds of, you can insert, right? The seeds of virality, the seeds of conversation, the seeds of acquiring followers are not magic beans. And the only time that you ever get overnight explosion or implosion is typically these days something that's bad. Or if it is good, you need to work with the professionals. See what I just did there? Like High Key Enterprises.
And it's a similar thought where this is another funny mindset to think about. But if you don't have the tools of creating wealth, and in terms of like the business aspect of things, of making money, if you win the lottery, the majority of people who win the lottery who don't have the skill sets of building wealth, they lose it over a very short period of time. Just like in social media, where if you were to get a viral video and get a ton of followers out of nowhere, but you don't have the tools of creating consistent content and creating quality content in a specific industry that's actually providing value to the audience, then those followers wouldn't be sticking around. And so it's of the similar mindset where there's so many parallels between business and social media.
I really like that. And when you talk about that you work with 7, 8, and 9 figure clients, it, to the untrained eye or to someone on the outside, it might even seem to be a little bit kind of standoffish or elitist or, even arrogant. And your explanation though is really great, because that's your lane. Your lane is not, we only work with the best and the biggest and the richest. You're just saying we really understand this segment, and we understand that it's a very, I'm not going to do my Liam Neeson. I have a very certain set of skills. But I mean, but you do, and so there's a reason why you don't work with everyone, or why you don't work with, I'm the world's greatest 3-figure talk show host at the moment.
Get out of here.
I aspire to be 4 and maybe 5. So just, you know, the night is young. But that's what you're saying. You're saying that it is a niche, it is a focus, it is an area of specialization, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. The main reason behind of only working with 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs is because those are the people who need branding the most. When you're not at 7 figures yet, you're usually trying to find product market fit. You're trying to find usually direct advertising services to bring in that revenue. And then once you have the foundation where you're consistently making revenue, whether it's just from one pipeline, whether it's from like word of mouth, direct advertising, social media, organic outreach, you have one pipeline that's doing extremely well when you're at 7 figures, that's bringing consistent revenue. And then branding can help attach to that to increase the ROI. And so that's our niche in terms of not helping people get from 0 to 7 figures, but we help people like really escalate their brands once they're at 7 figures and above.
I want to make sure that I heard that correctly, because are you saying that at that point, when you get to that certain level as an influencer or a celebrity, that you actually don't have a personal brand, or you haven't cultivated it enough, or that now it needs to evolve and be taken to another level? Which one of those is it?
Well, it really depends in terms of the type of person you're talking about that's at 7 figures. There's plenty of influencers that are at 7 figures, but we primarily work with businesses that currently don't have that big of digital brands. And so the reason it's such a need for these types of people is because they have 7, 8, 9-figure businesses in the real world. And then they either aren't on social media or don't have a digital presence, or the digital and social media presence that they have is very lacking. And so what we try and do is we try and take the level that they're currently at in the physical space, where they're at an extremely high level, 7, 8, 9 figures, and their social media and digital brand is just way below that. And so we try and at least bring it up to the exact same level or above, because especially if 7, 8, or 9-figure entrepreneurs have a social media brand that isn't a good representation of what they're actually doing in the real world, it does the exact opposite of brand credibility and authority, where it does the reverse. When people search them up on social media, they're like, are you really doing what you say you're doing? In comparison, where if it's at the same level of the business that you're doing in the real world, then it's basically backing up the type of business that you're doing.
What are your thoughts on we spoke about authenticity earlier, but this idea of authentic voice. One of my beliefs is that, first of all, my brand is my brand. I am who I am. I'm pretty transparent. I'm passionate. I'm an adventurer. I'm a risk taker. I know exactly who I am and who I want to become, because I'm in motion constantly. But I also believe that on different platforms, I'm going to express myself differently. Same person, but a slightly different approach. I might be a little bit more guarded, or I might be a little bit more chill, or I might be a little bit more personal. And I actually think, rather than cut, paste, each platform offers a different opportunity to express yourself and add a little bit more color and context and depth and dimension to the tapestry of a personal brand. What do you think about that?
100%. And I could talk for hours about every single social media platform, but to give the audience, anybody who's watching this like live or recorded, in terms of some value of immediate takeaways of each social media platform, I'll give a quick breakdown of each social media platform. So TikTok is right now, TikTok and YouTube Shorts are the best places for growing a natural following with short form content. And so if you're just getting started with creating content on social media, the two best places that you should be focusing on is on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And what you should be doing is going to industry leaders in your specific industry, not reinventing the wheel at the beginning, and go on to industry leaders of influencers or other business owners if you're in business, and searching them up on TikTok or YouTube Shorts and seeing the content that they're posting. And so from the content that they're posting, basically just recreate that with your own brand and your own spin on that type of content of their best performing videos. And then breaking apart the other social media platforms is Instagram. Every single business and personal brand should be on Instagram. It's the digital business card of today's day and age. Most people, when you're talking at a business conference, they don't really ask anymore, what's your phone number? They usually ask like, what's your Instagram page? And so what we make our client's Instagram page look like is a landing page. And so we want people to understand who we are, what we do, and how they can get in contact with us in the matter of 1 second of looking at our Instagram page. And so mainly if you're trying to just get started with things, I would create some Instagram accounts for your personal and business brand. Just make it look really good and a good representation of your brand, and then start posting content on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And then LinkedIn is the best place that we've found for recruiting talent onto LinkedIn. So we don't spend a lot of time posting on LinkedIn, but we've created our profiles on LinkedIn to be like a landing page similar to Instagram, but more on the business side of things. And so make it really enticing for new recruits coming onto our team to basically see that we're very legitimate and showcase basically what we do on a daily basis. And then Twitter is a platform that's very interesting. I'm not going to go too much into Twitter because I actually have no idea how it's going to play out in the future. I personally think that Twitter could be going decentralized, which is a whole nother conversation. But on YouTube Shorts is completely where it's at if you're just getting started. The reason we stopped doing YouTube back in 2015 when we first got going into creating like the video game content like we talked about at the beginning is because YouTube long form content is the #1 most sought after channel that people want to go after, but it's #2 the absolute hardest channel to get subscribers on if you're just posting long form content. So I would strongly suggest, no matter where you're at, is to be focusing on short form content before going into the YouTube long form content, because you usually need to have an audience outside of YouTube long form content to bring.
No, he tells me after 500 episodes. Stupid. All right. Note to self, cut the interview short. Well, anyway, this has been fun. I've enjoyed having Luke Lintz on my show. I would love to have done a little bit more, but unfortunately, I'm now a short form talk show. So we always end up with Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
Just kidding. We'll keep going. But now I've just got to do something. You just created more work for me. I've got to edit. This has been a masterclass in personal branding from Luke Lintz. I mean, just to add one point is, I don't even know if you're finished. I just kind of like had to jump in, but you've got authentic voice. And it's funny because I do a virtual coffee every single weekday morning, every weekday morning. We've been doing it for a year nonstop, called the Collective Cafe. And we do it in Clubhouse. We do it in Discord. And today we spoke about roles. What is the role for marketing? What is the role of communication? There's got to be a role. And LinkedIn is an easier one, right? People kind of get LinkedIn, right? They kind of get recruitment, they kind of get talent, they kind of get B2B, but the others aren't that obvious. It almost seems like is it Threads versus Twitter? And then is it kind of TikTok or Insta, and where's Snapchat? And what do you think, Luke, about this idea of like being all over the place and all over the show? On one hand, is it important to have a presence everywhere? But on the other hand, how do you prioritize and determine where you should be and where you shouldn't be?
For sure. LinkedIn and Instagram are the biggest priorities in terms of just at least having a presence there. Where
should Cardi be on LinkedIn is my question. The world wants to know.
A-list celebrities have exceptions in every single industry. Like, for example, in the PR industry, when we talk about like what makes a newsworthy pitch of like pitching to journalists, in terms of pitching our clients to journalists as thought leaders, it's when we break down the components of things, it's okay, it has to be newsworthy, or it has to be like very timely in terms of the news going on, or it has to be entertaining. And then the last point is like, or A-list celebrity. It's like its own category, where they have their own category in terms of like they can really do anything.
Right, Cardi B, you get a LinkedIn hall pass. But like, and I'm not going to say whilst I agree with you, I do agree with you. It would be interesting to see more celebrities on LinkedIn, because it almost becomes sometimes, where do you go to find someone's contact details? Luke, part of my strategy in terms of how I get guests on my show and part of my outreach, just building relationships in general, is to try and contact people. And it's funny, sometimes people are just really, really not contactable, i.e., celebrities, A-list celebrities. They don't have a website, they don't have a contact, they aren't on LinkedIn. There's no way to direct message them. They've got protected profiles. And the only way to go is through the ultimate gatekeeper, which is a publicist, an agent, or high key enterprises. I know it's the nature of the beast, but is that a mistake, just not to be accessible at all in this changing world?
I literally love this topic so much, because over the past 4 years, like, we've collaborated with over 100 A-list celebrities, and I couldn't agree with this point more, of celebrities needing to be more accessible in terms of personally, where we've been scammed hundreds of thousands of dollars of going through security guards, of going through miscellaneous brokers who have these specific connections with celebrities. And we've learned our hard lessons through that, because it's so difficult to get in direct touch, and even know when you get in direct touch of a manager, even knowing if that manager is being authentic to actually managing that celebrity. A lot of celebrities, especially in the rap industry, have their mom, have their dad managing them, or have like a very close friend who knows nothing about business managing them. And it's a huge flaw on that side of things, where, on the contrary, we have worked with certain celebrities that are more accessible, and we've been able to do more deals with them because of that, and they've been able to get paid way more. And it's interesting seeing them, especially when we meet up in person, the ones that are more business oriented and actually trying to build a relationship with us, compared to the ones that we just pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to, and they show up, don't give us the time of day at all, and are just there for a business transaction and leaving.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
And I would also imagine, I mean, today, unless you've been living under these days, it's like, back in the day, and we're talking like 1 week ago when Threads went, but when we actually think about the changing world, I mean, most people, if you haven't heard of Charlie D'Amelio, then you're not paying attention, or others. But I think it's sometimes we overlook the fact that there are overnight successes. I used to call them web celebrities, but there are overnight successes of people that have, and by the way, we see this with even footballers, with English footballers, soccer players that are 18, 19, 20, 21. They're still managed by their parents as well. And so I really think it's an important point, which is to recognize that not everyone knows the tricks of the trade and the rules of the game. And people are trying to find the balance, I guess, between where they've come from and where they're heading. You need the right Sherpa, no doubt, right?
For sure. And the reason for it is because we were trying to analyze, like, why are these people getting their like close friends who know nothing about business to manage their 6-figure, 7-figure deals? And what it all boiled down to is these A-list celebrities have a problem with trust, because they do, a lot of them do blow up overnight in terms of gaining all this fame and this massive amount of money. And so the number one thing that they lack with people that come into their life is the aspect of trust. And so if somebody's been around their entire life, like their mom, dad, brother, close friend, it doesn't matter if they know about business in their minds, because they can trust that person. And so,
well, that's another key insight, which is, I love this, because it's almost like deconstructing and kind of looking into the sausage factory, and see how it's made, and realize it's not always. I mean, this is the world, right, Luke? Is everyone lives in this perfect Instagram world with all their perfect filters. Everyone appears to be happy, but there's so much, there is so much mental anguish today, and mental health is just so important it almost seems like to be in PR. I mean, you say Hikey is a different type of company. I think you almost have to be a different type of company to handle this. You need to be part therapist. You need to be part advisor. You need to be part counsel. It isn't just about being able to get earned media impressions or pick up on the Today Show. Although if you can help me get notice on the Today Show.
No, for sure. Yeah, we're taking so many elements that the traditional PR firms, like dinosaur PR firms, we like to call them, just aren't adapting to in the modern way. And just like every single old company and traditional company in every single industry is going to be taken out by the modern companies one by one.
For sure. I mean, I in many respects, I even look at the traditional talk show hosts that are with hair and makeup and laugh tracks and you know, I mean, I don't even know if you can hear, like, there's thunder outside. Can you hear the thunder coming through? I don't even know if you can hear it, but it's like literally Noah's flood outside. But this is not a studio. This is not a green screen. This is just the real deal. What you see, what you see is what you get.
It's authentic.
Dan, I mean, please tell me you hear the thunder. It's awesome. I've decided to upgrade you to Dr. Luke Lintz, CEO of Hikey Enterprises, because I think you're part like philosopher or therapist. And I always find a quote for my guests, and I found this one. Sometimes I don't quite fully understand it, or even the person where it's coming from. But this is what I found for you. Misery is the currency trade on social media. That is why sociopath and stalkers have found a place to call home. Clout chasers are upgrading from catfishing to sad fishing. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I've never heard of sad fishing. And in fact, I've never heard of what is this? Philosopher, DJ, Kios. I've done some research. I'm invited.
Where did you find this quote?
God knows. God knows. It's Chat GPT. I don't know. But what is sad fishing? Have you ever heard of sad fishing?
Never heard of sad fishing in my entire life.
What do you think this quote means? And it's okay to say I don't know what it means, because I don't know what it means.
I have no idea what it means.
Misery is the currency trade. This is why. I mean, listen, you know, you're just not doing it right. Damn it, DJ Kios. So sometimes I love the way you said, where did I find it? I'm like, I don't know. I've got a production team of one here. What do you want from my life? You know, what I found interesting about you as well, like in terms of talking about the things that you wanted to talk about, because you are also part innovator, part technologist, part futurist. You probably know where I'm heading on this as well. But you wanted to talk also about kind of AI and what it looks like in business. I mean, I got to read this to you because I've been reading this to everyone at the moment. This kind of blew my mind. This is from a prediction from Dr. Mansoor Ahmed Rengers. And he says, no photograph will be believable as true within a year unless it comes with some sort of authentication. The same will happen with videos in 2 years. Like that it just blows my mind, which could theoretically mean even this interaction right now may not be real.
Yeah.
How do we know it's real? How do we know that you and I mean, clearly my amateurish status and, you know, and my low level of quality indicates that I'm not AI, but you could be AI. So what are your thoughts on AI? I'm fascinated.
Well, off the topic that you just said, I have some crazy thoughts in terms of how Apple just released their basically augmented reality headset.
Vision Pro.
Yeah. And it's just the first of its time. And with the development of technology in terms of how quickly it's advancing in very quick time, 5 to 10 year horizon, there's going to be contact lenses that we put into our eyes that's going to give that augmented reality. You see it in Black Mirror too, in terms of things. But with this component, when you can't differentiate what you're seeing right in front of you in terms of if it's showcasing something else from reality, then that's basically a simulation. And so basically that's why Musk goes on stage and explains the odds of us not being a simulation are ridiculously low, because in our lifetime, both of our lifetimes, we're going to see what a simulation actually looks like, and potentially people getting trapped within it. And it's just a crazy thought. But in terms of AI, in terms of where it is right now, this is another thing where with social media, in terms of how certain aspects are flawed about every single industry, I think there's aspects of AI and how it's being rolled out that's flawed. But in the end of it, it's absolutely inevitable that it's going to continue to keep rolling out. And so I'm trying to get my team to take absolute full advantage of it. And it's interesting that when you're training your team to basically take advantage of AI, is you're switching people's mindsets from being in a production mindset and a doing mindset, where people are constantly doing their own work, where with AI, you're turning your mindset into a question-based mindset and a question-based framework, where what are the exact right questions to be asking. And this is what's distinguished like owners of a business and leaders of a business from everyday workers, where everyday workers are usually working on the tasks from the questions being asked by the higher level management, leadership, and owners, where this is kind of going to be transitioning people into everybody needing to ask the right questions. And so it's very interesting where things are going to be going with it.
I love that. I love that point, because, you know, I always say, if you want to get the right answers, you have to ask the right questions. And this idea of moving from a production mindset to a question or prompt based mindset, it makes me think of, you know, what is wealth, right? You work for your money, or your money works for you. Are you input or output based, right? I mean, is it all about churning out those widgets or sausages, to use the sausage factory again? Or is it like really being able to be smart about how we program and how we create the processes, the repeatable processes, etc. I've been having a lot of fun with ChatGPT and with Midjourney, but ultimately it works for me right now. I'll work for it at some point, but right now it works for me, and I'm using it to help me scale and become more efficient. What do you think? What does a celebrity do when now suddenly everything is just freely available, and authentication, I should say, is being questioned? How does a celebrity like really dial up their humanity?
Well, I'm not sure if you've seen what's been going on in the Hollywood industry over the past month, but writers and actors have been going on strike in front of all of the
I heard this rumor, which is good for amateurish talk show hosts, maybe, but not good for anyone else. But I'm going to go on strike as well, but I'm not getting paid, so it's fine. Yeah. So carry on.
Yeah. So writers and actors have been going on strike for, I think it's been about the past month, and it's estimated from researchers that it's costing the economy around $3 million per day for writers. And crazy. And you got talk show hosts like Jimmy Fallon, like on board with saying that the writers should be fairly compensated. And it's interesting that the writers and actors are both going on strike for similar reasons, where they explain how much time and energy they've invested into their work just for it to be replicated by AI in the future, and believing that it's going to take their jobs. And so I have some contrary views in terms of my thinking on like the writers and actors strike. I think actors have a very fair in terms of ask, where if their images are being replicated in terms of future videos, they should be receiving royalties from that because it's their physical image and stuff. Where with writers of asking for backdated royalties off of the work they did on past scripting is a bit unfair, because it's kind of similar in terms of when we were going into the .com boom, and when websites and the internet just became a thing, where it's similar if workers were going on strike, not wanting their material offline to be going online. And it's just like, that's not realistic. Like it's more how workers and especially writers should be looking at how they can use AI to their advantage and help provide more value to the companies they're working for. and this is like every single worker in general, is they should be studying up on AI and how it can be best utilized in their specific industry and what they specifically do to make themselves more valuable in the company, and then receive higher compensation and even royalties in a negotiated deal because they're providing more value. That's always of the belief system that I'm at.
And by the way, I mean, when AI is essentially writing the scripts and replacing copywriters, or screenwriters, I should say, screenwriters are going to need to become prompt writers. And I mean, but there's also, you know, what I always love about this is when every one door shuts, another one opens, which is even this idea that, you know, Luke Lintz could be starring in a movie with Marilyn Monroe at some point, and the ability to bring people back almost from the dead, which is a little weird and macabre, but also kind of cool. There's going to be new opportunities as well, and royalties and residuals for families from 50 years ago. So it's like the Wild West. They say crypto is the Wild West. I think Hollywood's the new Wild West.
Yeah, Hollywood, AI, crypto, all the Wild West.
I'm telling you. Well, now you're going to move from Dr. Luke Lintz to Cowboy Luke Lintz. But Luke, in our time left, there are two things that really, one thing that I wanted you to talk to, which is, it really kind of caught my, which is why it's important to start taking massive risks as early as possible. And I wonder, is this necessarily about age, or is it really just more about when you get started with anything in life, you take a risk? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love this talking point because I've been thinking about it a lot recently. So when I first got started in business in high school, I'm super glad looking back upon reflection in terms of starting at such a young age. But my mindset back then of working on things in high school and deciding not to go to university despite getting accepted into a really good program for university is future pacing, worst case scenario. And so back then I would think, okay, 10 years from now, if I'm 27 or 28, I could miserably fail. I could go bankrupt. I could take out loans and just absolutely miserably fail. Like, what is worst case scenario? I was even thinking of like homeless, even though it's not possible because my parents are middle class. Like I would always have a home to stay at the end of the day. I'm like, that's not even that bad as long as I learn more doing it actually in the real world compared to going to university for business school. So I thought of it and I was like, wow, it's really a no-brainer for me to go down this path and continue down it. But now looking back at it, I've realized that for other people and too, that I think that risk and your risk tolerance and age are like basically inversely proportional with one another. And so I think when you're extremely young, whether you're in high school, university, or whether you're around that age, you don't really have that many people depending on you in life. And so you have the biggest opportunity to take the highest risk possible at that very young age. But as you age up in life and start getting married, having kids, and having to take care of those people and more people depending on you, naturally, your risk tolerance should decrease over time. And so that's kind of how I break down things in terms of, sure, it's the youngest you possibly are, you should be taking the biggest risks. And yeah, as you get older, you should be experiencing and expecting less risk tolerance.
I actually, in finishing my 6th book at the moment, I've been talking about and trying to understand relationships between money and happiness, and also risk as well. And what I actually realize is there's a little kind of sting in that story, which is I actually think what happens is it's more the shape. It's instead of being a diagonal, it's like I think I wasn't very good at math clearly, or geometry, or I don't think I was good at anything apparently. But to me, the shape is a parabola. And so what actually happens is, I think, is that once the kids then go and everything's paid for, perhaps your risk tolerance starts to change again. And you get like a second coming, you get a second wind You get an opportunity to reinvent yourself instead of actually settling for the role that has been forced on you, which is to have aged out. You get to actually kind of get another crack. Quite frankly, you want an example? The Golden Bachelor. The Golden Bachelor. Guess what? Old people can also fall in love and embarrass themselves on reality TV. Case in point. There you go.
Yeah, no, I like that you bring up that point, Joseph, about how like a second wave. And I think all the way throughout it, at any age, I feel kind of like an idiot talking about this in terms of like how young I am and future pacing out at like 30 and 40 years old. But
did I mention I hate you? Okay, just checking. The passion.
But I think that no matter when you're starting, I think it's all about the mindset that you have. Like, for example, if you are at an age where you have the most people depending on you possible, like you have a wife, you have multiple kids that are extremely young, all depending on you, but you're in a job that you absolutely hate, you could use that as motivation to get you to the next level, where you could use all of that as extreme motivation, even though you're taking a massive risk. You could use it as motivation that you have the luxury of no other options. If you leave your job and start up a business, like you have no other option besides to succeed and to make it work. And I think any single person that puts their mind behind something, like every single person, there's so many people, unbelievable innovators in this world and entrepreneurs that have created miraculous things. And from what I see, I don't think that they have anything that exceptional and special about them. And so it tells me that the majority of people on this earth can do marvelous and miraculous things if they just put their mind to it. And that's how I think about myself. And I think any single person watching this can do the same if they actually put their mind behind it and then they back it up with action.
Look, I think you've peaked at 23, and I think it's all downhill from here. But no, I love it. And those words are truly, they resonate with me. It's very consistent with what I've been writing at the moment, which is my formula is very simple. Love what you do, be true to yourself, and stay the course. Or buy the course, or take out the earned media national press package. How about that for a segue? But seriously, invest in yourself. You're investing in your future. You're investing in your brand. And I guess the beautiful thing about it right now is the world is changing. So the playing field just keeps on leveling. I mean, right now, if you are a talk show host, you're sitting dealing with strikes. And at one point, they were all stranded at home, just like I was. So it ain't over till it's over. And just ask Bill Gates. I think he just was on the Golden Bachelor. I like this. I heard this in your promo video. Bill Gates, of all people, said if he was down to his last dollar, he would invest it in Joseph Jaffe Is Not Famous, and then in press. But I'm surprised by this. I love this statement. Bill Gates, of all people, realizing the power of press. Why not?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes. And it's because the highest level individuals know that the one thing that sticks with you for life, no matter where you're at, is your brand. And most people only get one personal brand. And so making sure that that is as solid as possible and thinking on a long time horizon is the absolute best investment that you could make. And if you take that mindset into every area of business, like, for example, thinking about that you're going to be in business for 50 plus years and that every single client that you deal with is going to talk about you to other people for the next 50 plus years, you'll construct your business that way into providing the most value and in terms of doing right by every single customer and all of that.
Well, let me tell you, Marilyn Mead, who was watching in the green room, but apparently she left because we ran out of green M&Ms. She said, love this and would love to be back. Great to hear both of you. All she has to do is be my 10,000th subscriber on YouTube and she can be back. If it works once, it can work again as well. Luke, you are ahead of your time, my friend. And I really loved there were so many gems in this that sometimes I forget to take notes. I start with a blank canvas, and then sometimes I'm just kind of like so relaxed and enjoying myself that I'm like, shit, now I've got to go back and rewatch the thing and take some more notes. But if you want to continue to be a part of this story and the narrative, you can find him in the club on Clubhouse. He's on the Twitter, as long as Elon will let us stay there without charging us too much. He's, of course, on Instagram, where you're not paying attention, at Luke Lintz. And if you want to find out more about his services, just make your way over. If you're ready to hit the high note, the high key, if you have those 7, 8, or 9 figures, no decimal points. I tried that. It didn't work for me. Just go to highkeyagency.com. And now, Luke, finally, even though this is not short, I will cut it, I will slice it, I will dice it, I will produce the 1,000 nuggets. We can end the proper way with Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.